In China, sleep is proactively encouraged and you're scored on your sleep. If you sleep well, there's a sort of theory that you're obviously going to perform better. So there are bonuses and incentives for sleep performance. Now to me, that's genius. That's brilliant. NASA defined a 26-minute power nap for cognitive performance enhancement. Measured studies, that's the sweet spot. We need spaces and places for calm because everything's too loud, everything's always on. To have a place to retreat to. I've been obsessed with breath work and sort of biohacks to really accelerate deep relaxation. So I think you can do it in about 30 to 45 seconds. So, I mean, if your audience want to sort of join in, we could do it very quick.
Today's guest is a bit of a legend, and you'll see that he is a very handsome man. I'm a big fan of his, his general style, as you will see. So let me let the AI introduce today's guest, the incredible Tom Middleton.
All right, everyone. This next guest has had more aliases than a low-budget spy movie. Tom Middleton is a musician, producer, DJ, sound designer, sleep scientist. Honestly, at this point, we're just waiting for him to reveal he's also a part-time wizard. Back in the 90s, while the rest of us were trying to work out how to program a VCR, Tom was making legendary ambient records with Aphex Twin and Global Communication, basically inventing the soundtrack for staring thoughtfully out of train windows. These days, he's gone from making people dance in warehouses to helping them fall asleep with scientifically engineered whale noises and psychoacoustic soundscapes. So yes, after decades of melting brains with electronic music, he now professionally tucks adults into bed. Please welcome the man who turned "Have you tried calming down?" into an art form, Tom Middleton.
A little bit of nature sound in the background there, Tom. So how are you doing today?
I'm good, and I got the memo to make sure that I had a shave, and I photoshopped my face and got the spectacles on, so I think I'm on brand.
I know. There's two of us here, yet I'm still the third best Tom Middleton impersonator on this call, which this is not great. So we both made our way through the music industry in the 90s from sort of different angles. You were in the sort of electronica end. I was on the sort of indie end of things, working for different record labels. And now here we are. So what is filling your day at the moment? What are you up to?
Well, if I was to sort of say that I feel blessed to wake up in the morning and I feel like I'm in the center part of the Venn diagram of Ikigai, as in I get to do something that I love, I'm passionate about, I'm pretty good at, I get paid for it, and it's adding value and delivering meaning to those that are sort of suffering. It's a great place to be. So bread and butter for me these days is creating different types of content that's essentially salutogenic. It's promoting or causing health as opposed to pathogenic. So helping people to feel better, whether it's soundscapes to help people relax and go to sleep, whether it's what we call sonic anxiolytics, reducing anxiety, if it's sonic analgesics to reduce pain perception, or even sonic nootropics for focus and performance. So I love the idea that sound and soundscapes can be functional and useful, and we can actually leverage neuroscience and psychoacoustics and vibroacoustics to create sound worlds that not only sound nice, but actually do something, modulate the parasympathetic nervous system, for example.
Phenomenal. You know, for my newsletter went out this morning. If any of you are listening and or watching this and you're not subscribed to my newsletter, seriously, what are you playing at? I decided to write a limerick about you, Tom, when I was inviting people to join us today. So here we go. Tom's an electro musician using sound to improve your condition. His lovely refrains are massages for brains, so he's really an earhole physician. I think that kind of sums you up, I think, quite well.
That's brilliant. I'll have to come up with a haiku for you by the next time we meet.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with the haiku, you don't have to worry about what rhymes with bullshit, which is
earhole physician is very cool. I like that. Yeah, nicely done. Thank you. I'm honoured.
You're welcome. So you're saying there, you're doing stuff that you're looking at how to use audio for to make people feel better, to help them sleep better, to help them reduce anxiety, and that there's the kind of sounds that humans used to experience before we started building cities. And we only started living in cities or started developing cities in the last 10,000 years.
Right.
And the last time we had a structural change to our brain was about 40,000 years ago. So actually, for most of the way that our brains have developed here, the sounds that we heard were completely different. We'd be walking through the woods and we'd be hearing the birds, we'd be hearing the animals, we'd be hearing the swish of the leaves. Do you think our brains are actually still wired for that kind of sound? And do you think the sounds that we have now are sort of unhealthy for us?
100%. So if you think about it, genetically, we were programmed, if you like, for the sounds of safety. What signals safety? So if we're scanning the immediate environment, what are the triggers to enable us to go about our business being safe? They were very low level. Anthropophony is the highest level of this. This is human-made sounds. That's noise pollution. But if we rewind, it was this low level of geophony. Geophony meaning earth elemental sounds, wind, rain, fire, that sort of thing. And above that, you have this layer called Biophony, which is creature sounds, birds, insects, reptiles, etc. Put those together, you've got a really lovely concoction that I'm always prescribing to people if they're feeling a bit stressed out, because that's what we were used to all those years ago. Then came, industry, urbanization, building, and humans making sounds that were either intentional or unintentional. The unintentional anthropophonic sounds is essentially noise pollution. It's the unhealthy levels of sound that are a byproduct of humans.
It's that guy outside my window who started to drill the foundations, yeah.
And then you've got intentional anthropophony, which is music. And I love the idea that at some point, 42,000 years ago, some chap or chapess picked up a bone, and perhaps it already had holes in it, but maybe they decided to kind of drill a couple more or make some holes in them, blew it, and that's interesting. So proto-humans, let's say proto-speech was musical, and then the adoption of instruments happened in a rather magical way. Bone flutes, didgeridoos, shamanic drums, skins being sort of stretched over bits of wood, and we started to communicate over long distances using these instruments. So music is actually relatively later on in this conversation. So as you say, if we were wired for this background layers of sound that made our nervous system feel safe, and we were scanning all the time for saber-toothed tigers, wolves and bears, we wouldn't hear them now, right? I mean, we've got planes and trains, and that saber-toothed cat will come up and get you if you because it's obscured by the sound of a plane.
Yeah, funnily enough, when I was doing a talk last week for LinkedIn, I started it with 40,000 years ago, and I had this sort of film going, and it just said 40,000 BC. And it was in the woods, and you've got the trees swaying and everything. And then I introduced a Paleolithic human who I called Grumph, who he just so happened to have an iPhone with AI on it. So the video then shows Grumph coming out of his cave, pulling out his phone and sort of asking, where shall I go foraging today? And then off he goes. And then you see him and his friends walking through the forest, and he comes across a bush with a whole load of berries on it. He takes a picture and goes, are these edible? And apparently they are. So he starts eating them, hoping that the AI wasn't hallucinating, and because if not, he would be. And then he sort of carries on through the woods, and he sees a footprint of an animal. And as he's taking a picture of it, the wolf comes out comes out of the forest and attacks him. And that's the sort of end of Grumph. And there's this sort of relationship that people are building with their with their devices and with tools like AI, which is muting a lot of the things that were senses, that were things that were built into us. And we know that there's certain skills that we have lost, like the ability to know where north is, the ability to look at the weather and understand, well, actually, it's going to be raining this afternoon. I'll need to take my Paleolithic anorak with me. And we've lost a lot of that. Do you think we're at risk of losing more skills and more connection with nature as we use our technology?
That's a really good question. On the one hand, I would agree, and I say those that are consumers are becoming more reliant on agentic AI to give us the answers, to let's say, almost predict and preempt what's going on environmentally around us, and to cue us, the concierge kind of agentic setup. On the other hand, what I'm noticing is a rather lovely reaction against this, particularly in my world of immersive experience design, where people are actually quite happy to put their phones down for an hour and sit in silence and listen to an album. How about that? So there's a really lovely, counter argument, if you like, to these things which are always on, keeping us always on in this sort of state of vigilance. Very hard to switch off. And once we're in the dopamine feedback loop, good luck to anyone that wants to try and get out of that. But if we're starting to feel that, and then people are talking and it's starting to build momentum as okay, this is great. Let's use that when we really need it. But do we need it on all the time? That's the question. Can we actually have the willpower and the ability to sort of put these gadgets down and then return to those states that we've forgotten about? And it feels like a lot of people are talking about those abilities and things that you mentioned, as in the skills and the abilities or the sensitivities, the senses, the sensory perception that perhaps has been forgotten because we've got everything served up to us on a phone.
There was something that I used to find when I was creative director of ad agencies, that I would sometimes go around the department and I would see people with their feet up on the desk and they'd be scrolling through Facebook. And as I'd say to them, what are you doing? They'd say, oh, I'm looking for inspiration. Just like, you're looking in the wrong place. This is an environment here that is designed to suck your attention rather than to add things into your brain. So I would throw them out the office with a pad and a pen and say, right, come back at 4 o'clock and show me your ideas. Offices are very often not designed for how they expect humans to behave. And as somebody like me with ADHD and dyslexia and whatever else sort of makes me hypersensitive to that stuff, do you think that there's things that offices need to be considering as part of their environment, not just auditory, but in other sort of environmental cues that would help people do their job better and help stop them being as dependent on the technology?
100%. So I talk about this a lot, and I think if we look at each canvas or environment as an opportunity to look at how we are working with human nervous system design, and are we being mindful that the environment is supportive of the nervous system? Is it salutogenic? Is the outcome here that actually we're making you retain information, helping you to focus, helping you to get through the day with joy in your heart? Is it a fun place to environment to be in? And yet, it's really counterintuitive when you've got acoustics that are appalling. You don't have provision of spaces where people can actually detach from the mayhem of these sort of open plan offices and have moments of respite from that. So quick case study. I created a thing called the Sound Sauna in a Hong Kong co-working space called The Hive. Repurposed a 3x3 meter storage room, put in finished sort of wooden benches with mattresses on the top, had circadian mood lighting and a quadraphonic sound system and some scent. You could basically tap in with an iPad and then book a session of 5 to 60 minutes with a specific kind of surround soundscape. If you wanted to go and have like a creative session, fine, or meditate, or even a nap, why not? We know that NASA naps, 26 minutes, are actually really good for cognitive performance enhancement. So it's just thinking about humans in a more caring way. I think we need spaces and places for calm, because everything's too loud, everything's always on. To have a place to retreat to, you sort of think about that sort of quiet space in a hospital that's always there for prayer and things like that. Why can that not be everywhere? Why is there not an opportunity for every space to have the chill out room, the good old fashioned chill out room? For those of you as old as us, 754, there was this concept in the early 90s where you could go raving and dancing in room one, and then you could actually go into a back room which had lovely lights and really chilled ambient music. Why can't we have that everywhere? I mean, that's and even doesn't even have to be music; it could just be naturescapes.
Yeah, there's, as you mentioned, like sleep is something that's really important. I about 25 years ago, when I was running a department, I built a TV studio in the basement. And one of the things that was left at the end of building this sort of film studio with green screen and everything was a whole lot of this sound isolation foam, which is so comfortable to lie on. It is just wonderful. So I built a bed in the studio for this.
Fantastic.
And when I found people in my department who were hungover or looked a bit tired, I would say to them, here's the keys to the studio. I want you to come back in 25 minutes. And because I knew that if people went away and had a sleep, they would recharge and they'd be far more productive for the rest of the day. So it was one of these things that was good. I knew it was better for productivity, but most people running companies and finance directors don't see, like a word you mentioned was fun, chilling out. They don't see that as being responsible in the workplace. Is there any way to deal with that, do you think?
Well, there's a ton of research around this. NASA defined a 26-minute power nap for cognitive performance enhancement. Measured studies, that's the sweet spot. Beyond that, you'll go beyond the, let's say, sort of stage one sleep, and it gets more difficult to wake up. So you get groggy, what's called sleep inertia. But within that 26-minute window, you've actually got an opportunity to reset, to really sort of dial down the nervous system, to be able to then come back with a bit of a bit more power and oomph for the final push during the day. So, what Mediterraneans do it. There's good reason to pause for a little while in the afternoon and then come back. I'm pro napping. I think it's
me too.
Company culture is sort of not really up for that. Although nap pods did do some studies with those. I think Google had them in their environments for a while, and I'm fairly sure that in China, sleep is proactively encouraged, and you're scored on your sleep. If you sleep well, there's a sort of theory that you're obviously going to perform better. So there are bonuses and incentives for sleep performance. Now, to me, that's genius. That's brilliant. Of course, incentivize your workforce to have better sleep, because then you're going to work better and they're happier. You're going to retain them. So if sleep is the foundational pillar of all health and well-being and productivity, make sure everyone sleeps well. Hence, the sleep science coach that got obsessed with it after keeping people up dancing all night, helping everyone relax and sleep now. So redemption.
So Tom, you also do stuff with an app that I've had on my phone for a number of years with Cam. And could you explain what you've done with Cam and what it is that took you into that space?
So, quick rewind. Early 90s, making ambient music, got some great feedback. People using it therapeutically. A lot of people would put it on to fall asleep to. I've met children that have been conceived with this album. It's been used in all kinds of settings. Believe me, people giving birth using it. So this really sowed the seeds of functional music that was more than just entertainment, but actually could do things to the nervous system. Jumping a couple of decades into the future, got into the neuroscience of sound and music and behavioral psychology to unpack what is it about certain tempos, timbres, the essence of music that can actually deliver this shift in nervous system, activate the parasympathetic response. And in doing that, I kind of got introduced to Michael Acton Smith and had a great conversation. Say, look, I've been working on this sleep content, And I know you've got the world's best performing sleep stories, but it'd be lovely if we could maybe leverage some of the science and the research that I've been exploring and create some content to see how it goes, because we could get a really good data set. So the very first track I made, called Moonlight on Water, is still one of the highest performing tracks on their platform. So there's something about and the precursor to that was actually an album called Sleep Better for Universal Music. And in that process, I was looking at a way where you could use that hour before sleep to actually help you to wind down. So initially it's active listening, it's storytelling, it's a soundtrack, it's music. And then it's this passive listening where we switch you into this mode of feeling supported and cared for, nurtured, almost rocking you to sleep sonically in an oral duvet. And then turning it down. So you wouldn't have to turn the music off yourself. I've turned it down for you. So if you look at the waveform, it's literally doing that. And I thought, well, these are the functional ways where you can help people to relax. You want to fall asleep to the music. And what happens now is people say, I've never heard the end of your album because I'm always asleep by, about 20 minutes in, I've gone.
Yeah.
And there's some fun games you can play with that. So if you hold a spoon in your hand and rest it out the side of the bed whilst you're sort of trying to fall asleep, there's this thing called sleep onset latency. When your hand releases and relaxes, the spoon hits the floor, you can time how long it takes you to get to sleep. A little bit of fun there, everyone. You can try that. What's your sleep onset latency? So it's typically around 18 to 20 minutes. Some people get to sleep much quicker than that. I've been obsessed with breath work and sort of biohacks to really accelerate deep relaxation. So I think you can do it in about 30 to 45 seconds. So, I mean, if your audience want to sort of join in, we could do a very quick down regulation. And this is a good one to...
Let's do it.
All right. Okay. So what I want you to do, everyone sort of put hands on your chest here, and we're going to find that resonant frequency of this sort of spot here, sort of the sternum, just above the solar plexus, which is kind of where your heart is. Now, for me, it's here.
Yeah.
Wherever yours is, that's fine. Doesn't matter if we're in tune or not. And what we're going to do is take a long, deep inhale through the nose. We're going to pause, and then we're going to exhale with a hum. I go, and keep that going for as long as possible. So we're going to do it 3 times. Ready with me? Inhale.
I can keep going.
Cool. Well, I could as well, but I think we'll probably win. Okay. Inhale again. And we'll do one more. So this cheeky little trick is a prolonged exhale, which in all pranayama or breathwork practices is the way to activate parasympathetic response. It stimulates the vagus nerve because of the vibration. And ultimately, these 3 simple long exhales, Dr. Andrew Huberman calls it the physical sigh. Anyway, where you're actually exhaling longer than the inhale, if it's tuneful, it's even better. So we should all be feeling a little bit more relaxed now. There's that, and there's the 4-7-8, Dr. Andrew Vile's trick. 4 in, hold for 7, out for 8. These are brilliant tricks. With a soundtrack or not, I'm all about get you to sleep ASAP.
So these are all also, I had to be careful there because I'm at a stand-up desk. If I'd fallen asleep, it'd been an injury. But these sort of tricks, these are also sort of things that people, I guess, can do in the workplace. I mean, if you go into the restroom at work and you hear somebody humming, just leave them to it.
Exactly. They're trying. just give them a bit of space. Yeah. So I'm just going to give you a little insight. So for the man that makes music to help people fall asleep, imagine having to stay up and keep awake making sleep music. Really challenging. And there's moments where it's sort of Tom and Jerry sort of matchsticks in the eyes, trying to kind of stay awake, nodding off, drooling, hand on the mouse, waking up going, I think it made something that helps with sleep. So it's a discipline in itself. I totally had to rethink music making and the craft of creating functional music to help with relaxation and sleep. Totally different to, any other form of music.
That's good. My friend Shelby here is saying that she told her husband that she needed to help. He needed to help with the kids so she could do some deep work, and now she's humming. So he's not
Yay!
going to believe that any real work going on there. It's like my wife comes in here and sees me doing things, and she doesn't think I'm working. It's all work to me.
Exactly. Yeah.
So with this, with the music, a lot of the music is to do this will be quite sort of cyclical because the brain gets into these rhythms and like, are there particular rhythms that are more that the brain is more attuned to and more likely to sort of sync with?
100%. So a lovely rhythm, which is compound duple time, otherwise known as lullabies. We've naturally been rocking our infants to sleep since the beginning. That sort of movement like this, the rocking movement, which is forward to back or side to side, that sort of pendulum effect. Dum, 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 dum. Start making music with that 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 3 waltz kind of feel. Very effective because it makes you feel like you're being rocked to sleep. Lullabies. Ding. So I unpacked lullabies for calm and we worked out why they work. It's this rocking feeling. So there's that, and there's also the tempo. So there's this thing called entrainment, rhythmic entrainment. And if, let's say, your heart rate is around 75 beats per minute, if you listen to music that has a natural pulse that's lower than that, let's say around 60 beats per minute, the same as a clock ticking, technically what will happen is we'll like to start to synchronize with that. And that's where this slowing down of the nervous system by way of breath rate, heart rate, blood pressure, cortisol down, all of that happens when the music you're listening to is slower in tempo than your resting heart rate. So that's some of the magic sauce that works very well. We don't really want lyrics. So spoken word is interesting because it's not necessarily lyrics, because if I'm talking about eventually it becomes and you're not really listening to the words. It's just a sort of stochastic blur of sounds coming out.
So we need Charlie Brown's teacher to do the sort of singing.
That one, yeah. Which is interesting because Calm had a great success with the shipping forecast, which sounds amazing because it doesn't really mean anything. And I've interviewed people that will listen to all kinds of interesting types of spoken word sounds that help them to sleep. ASMR, fascinating. Have you heard about this whole world of autonomous sensory meridian response? So it's very close sounds to your ears that basically elicit sort of the chills, the frisson response. And this is down to what it felt like when you were a child having your head stroked. So to elicit that now, if you listen to kind of like bubble wrap or different kind of sounds and frequencies that are very high, very close to the microphone that's a simulation of your ears, it gives you the shivers. So a lot of people use ASMR to get to sleep as well. So I'm fascinated by multitude of different, let's say, psychoacoustic effects, audio tricks to help elicit these responses that stimulate the parasympathetic response.
So when we start codifying this whole thing about this is how we can get audio to impact our mind. So we're then looking at particular techniques, the sort of closeness effect, and for the ASMR and the and these rhythms that work. It starts to become something that we can build algorithms around. And in the same way as I'm sure you're aware of the algorithmic music that was created in the 70s and 80s, sort of Bach. So there was a guy who managed to codify Bach and then produced albums that was algorithmic music back then in the early 1980s. I think his first album came out in 81. And that to me, I've always found fascinating. And at the moment, we're seeing this rise in AI music. And I'm sure that AI is better at some forms of music than others. But is that something that you see as a bit of a problem as somebody who is a musician, or is it something that's an opportunity?
It's a really big question right now. I'm in a bunch of WhatsApp groups and it's really contentious. You've got those that are pro AI for music and those that are, really feeling threatened that their livelihoods are going to be disrupted. So I'm pro artist first ethical use of AI as tools, as things to enhance processes, to speed things up, to facilitate, let's say, for example, those that have no musical ability, yet they can maybe hum or whistle or make noise with their mouth, or even just speak. You can prompt engineer music now. So I love the idea that AI could facilitate creative expression for those that don't have any possibility of being able to learn an instrument or have musicality in a sort of a natural ability. Those that are naturally gifted with music, you've got a whole new level here, because you can play with it. You can invite an AI platform to create things that you can then play with. So in that sort of jazz improvisational way, you might not even have come up with this thing, but suddenly you're hearing something that you've engineered that could actually prompt you, inspire you to respond to that. So the question and answer between you and machine learned algorithmic musical expression, I think, is fascinating. Where we have a problem is that if, and we know this is a problem because there's plenty of lawsuits going on at the moment, if a data set, a training set, is all current music that's available, and the artists and composers have not been asked permission for a training set to be trained on their art, their music, yet this platform now exists and can iterate things that sound very similar to all known music, so particular genres and artists. And I've done experiments. I've literally typed in specific keywords, and it'll sound like the Beatles or Coldplay or quite generic, but the more popular the music, the more easy it is to actually emulate it algorithmically, because there's more of that style. This is a problem, ethical AI. And I think a couple of days ago, Universal Music have launched a new initiative with Spotify, where Universal Music artists can opt in to have their music generatively remixed or reiterated as a cover version, a new style. So if you're a Universal signed artist and you consent, a Spotify user can make their own version of their favorite artist on Universal.
My goodness. But with this as well, I mean, as when we were teenagers, and for the record, people, Tom and I are almost exactly the same age. Tom is 2 months older than me. But when we were teenagers, I would get bored. And because I would suffer from boredom, I would pick up my guitar. And I got quite good at the guitar. And then I'd pick up another instrument. And it was through not having other ways of occupying my time, I guess, and having a passion for the music, that I threw myself into that. And these days, I've got a little bit of a worry about the younger generation, but because they are occupied with swiping so much, that they're not necessarily picking up the instruments in the same way as maybe you or I did when we were bored in the 1980s. But I like, for example, there was an article yesterday on the BBC that was talking about the UK government is making a speech today about the lost generation. So this current generation that is leaving university, and they've already been let down by COVID. They've been let down by the government. They've been let down by society. And, they're being criticized by people for being lazy and all sorts of stuff. Yet they're coming out and there's no opportunity for them. And this is what happened in the 70s, that we ended up with a lost generation, which led to punk music. And I've kind of been hoping that this younger generation would fight artistically in the same way, in a similar way, against the injustice of the fact that they are being left behind by society. And I'm not seeing it. And that to me is a little bit of a worry. Are you seeing that at all?
So we're talking about, let's say, general sort of apathy and malaise. Oh, well, I just can't be bothered, because you've got access to everything on demand now. Anything, everything, everywhere, all at once. It's literally that. That's the world we're in right now. So if we haven't even had a chance to be bored and to know what it is to be bored, and to then use our imagination to create, new forms of interest and curiosity, we need a backlash. And so here's a bit of hopium for you, Dave. There is this new wave, this new movement, particularly in the sort of biohacking fitness world, of people wanting to come together to commune and to connect and have conscious, meaningful social experiences together. Whether it's participatory art, deep listening, saunaing, dancing sober. There are some really interesting movements that seem to be kind of popping up now, and particularly in my world of immersive experience design. The idea that actually what this might inspire is people picking things up, and if the environment had the provision of drums. And do you remember there was a room called the Creative Music Room at my school? Creative Music Room. And it was a room full of percussion instruments and things that you could whirl around your head, and vibraphones and things you could, swanny whistles. Just even that sort of daft sound, things that you actually can physically pick up and make sounds with. If we rewind 42,000 years to the first bone flute or the first drum, it's that. We just need them. We just need environments to facilitate that. So I wonder if in the workplace there could be a creative music room for people to just go in and start, making percussive sort of sounds. So that was the first thing. If you weren't musical, it was hitting things, percussive stuff. So there you go, the creative music, mindful music room.
Yeah, I mean, we've had these street pianos in London for a few years. Maybe we sort of need to also get street drum kits and street swanny whistles.
and we'd be happier for it, because let's face it, it's the funniest sound there is.
Yeah, get a harmonica on a chain, like the kind of chain they used to have in banks to hold the pens. But you just get a harmonica on a chain. And sit there.
Why not?
That'd be the way to do it.
Love it. And they shall have music wherever they go. And why not? It's we just need an infrastructure, or we need ways where these become much more fun. So there's some great gadgets actually that just use this in a fun way, and I'm very much pro tech for good. So for example, the microphone, there's one instrument that you can sort of hold like this, and you can blow into the microphone and play it like a wind instrument. So,
like an
or
ocarina.
you can use it like a shaker or like a drum. So I think we're going to be okay. We just need people to be reminded that it's not doing this, but it's actually, creating things that are expressive and creative.
Yeah. There we go. And as Helena says, bring back youth clubs. Yes. Or for me, I grew up, it was like church youth groups. And that was, I guess, one of the things that got me into music, is because other people were playing guitar for the worship songs and things, and that got me into it. And now I'm happily still playing guitar, but I'm now an atheist. So it's good that some things move on. But there is also the thing that we've got when it comes to music is, when we were learning music, one of the things that you learn isn't just how to move your fingers to be able to do stuff on a keyboard or a guitar or whatever it is, your swanny whistle. But it's also, as we go through the process of doing that, we start to listen more. So we get active listening, and we start to break things down to work out the structure. How is this done? We get curiosity that comes as part of it. And then from that, we also start to develop taste and judgment. And one of the issues that only comes with the years of experience, and it is proportional to the effort you put in. But when people are immediately going to AI to produce stuff, suddenly the barrier to creation is at zero, but they haven't built the taste and they haven't built the judgment, which is why we end up with slop. Is there something we can do? Do you think that taste and judgment is something that can be created another way?
It's a brilliant topic, because it is the fundamental problem. If you haven't trained and haven't made mistakes to get to that point and built up experience through making mistakes and then iterating and practicing, you do not have, the same kind of aesthetic judgment as a, trained musician. So how would you get to a point of accelerated aesthetic experience? I mean, I guess there's probably an educational app platform opportunity there, something to help people understand the difference between, slop or not. Let's think about the provocation in the post. Is it 97, 98% of people cannot tell the difference between AI generated and normal music anymore. So that's testament to what you just said, the fact that even as a species, if we're getting to a point now where we've just been exposed to so much that has no real aesthetic value, how are we ever going to know the difference? Given that music is so personal, I think there's a need for some way of tapping into personal human experience, because I talk a lot about the second decade of your musical experience in your life. The soundtrack to your second decade is the most profound due to the fact that you're going through all these kind of seismic peak emotional experiences, going through puberty, meeting a significant other for the first time, intimacy, exams, leaving home, driving a car, etc., etc. All these peak experiences have a particular soundtrack, and it's that second decade. So when you go back and revisit what you were listening to in your second decade, it has a huge impact on what let's say the aesthetic cues are today. And if the second decade of some individuals now is AI slop, game over. There's nothing.
I mean, I used to say the same about second decade music being Justin Bieber and the effect that would have in society. But yes, slop, that's even worse. Yeah. I mean, it's one of these things that my wife and I very often, when we're going around places, will be listening to the music. And the thing that we know that we will officially be old when they stop playing 80s music, when we go to restaurants and they start playing the sort of next decades of music. We're getting stuff from the 90s, but once we get into the proper 2000s, that's it, we're screwed. It's time to retire. But it's interesting how formative that music is and how much of an emotional connection it has. Is that something that you think can be that can be harnessed or manipulated for people to even sort of help them with their mental health?
Again, another really, really great talking point. Now, if neuroplasticity occurs at those peak moment times where you really engage with that soundtrack or soundscape, and that memory has been built, stamped in, what can we do now when that background music is algorithmic? There's no human intervention at all. It's just copy paste of other generic music that doesn't make you feel anything. I think it's back to the sort of work that I'm doing right now, which is these real world connected multisensory experiences where we start to feel our bodies again. We start to get vibroacoustic experiences, which is felt sound layered with incredible, high fidelity spatial audio. So to finally wake you up out of, having to listen to compressed audio on these things is just a joke. So for those that don't know, essentially compressed audio, if you were to zoom into a waveform, a normal waveform for a sine wave would look like this, a beautiful S on its side. But all the audio we listen to on these platforms, if you zoom in, it's like this, it's stepped, which means that your brain is trying to fill in the gaps between these steps, and it's fatiguing. So we have a crisis of audio fidelity, which is already making it difficult to actually feel music properly because you're having to work out the missing bits of the compressed audio on the one hand, and you've got that delivered by an algorithm. So acoustic live music experiences, this is why it's quite popular at the moment. People loving going in real life to hear people play instruments because you feel it in a totally different way. So I'm hopeful that each generation, and if we look at the popularity of festivals and at scale music events now, I don't think it's going away anytime soon. People seem to be really enjoying being together, feeling the sound that's delivered through space, through speakers, It's just the, let's say, the disconnected solo app to user experience that's losing all of that.
So this seems like a really good place for us to wrap this up, Tom, because I can't believe that's been 45 minutes we've been yabbering for, and I could keep going, because this is all fascinating. The psychology of this, plus the music, plus the digital stuff, is just there's so much here that just excites me. But you're talking about people having that shared experience and the sort of high fidelity sort of audio as well. Now, you have got something happening in London right now. And for those of you who are tuning into this and are in London, could you explain what you've got, how people get there, how long it's on for?
Love to. Thank you very much. Yeah, so I've created an immersive audio experience called Time Echoes. It's a bit of a, let's say, story of the Big Bang, sonifying NASA data so that you hear the sound of a sun, a black hole, stars and planets. You listen deeply to geophonic earth sounds, creature sounds that you never get a chance to hear, endangered species, endangered environments, all in a zero gravity chair, reclining, so super comfortable. Forget sound baths with a little thin, wafer thin yoga mat. We don't do that. We provide support. It's in the cinema in Dean Street called All Is Joy, so 75 Dean Street. It's called the Polygon Portal. My experience is called Time Echoes, and it runs until the end of June at the moment, so every weekend. And we're getting great feedback. It's allowing people 45, 50 minutes to just completely switch off. Some of the reactions have been astonishing. One lady said, it's the same feeling I get when I pray in a church. Read into that as you will. Yeah. We've had a lot of people, bursting into tears because it's releasing trauma. I mean, if I think about what I've done here, one, it's to make you feel safe. It's in the dark. You're wearing an eye mask if you want to do that. So it's an immersive experience. You can sit on specific chairs next to the speakers and have a vibroacoustic felt sound experience as well. So you can experience it about 3 different ways: either fully immersive surround sound, where all the sounds are moving around you, or a felt sound through the body experience.
Wow. Well, I'm going to be going along to that, so I'm excited, and other people, please look out for it and go along if you're in London. Tom, we're going to have to wrap this up. I want to just keep talking, keep hanging with you. I'm sure we've got lots more conversations to have together, whether it's here or whether it's just us.
Absolutely. No, very, very grateful for the opportunity, Dave. And to everyone that's tuned in, thank you for your time, listening to two kids of the 1970s yapping on about music and AI. I mean, if we were to sort of leave on a sort of message of hope, I just think that if we are responsible in our utilization of the tools, and we're just aware of the fact that it needs to be human first, as in from the heart, and we need to be more caring as a species in how we're using these tools, I think we'll be all right, because it feels like we're craving those in-person connected experiences again, and we want to feel the music and be inside the music, and the only way that happens is when humans come together.
Yeah, and that's at the Gen AI Academy. That's kind of our approach to using AI in the workplace as well, which is humans first and making sure we don't lose the soul of what we're about. Tom, right, hang around. I'm going to chat to you once I pull the plug on this. But for everyone else, I want to say I love you. Thank you for joining. As always, I really appreciate it. If you've got any other questions, any other comments, just keep putting them in the comments, and we're going to come back and keep visiting those comments. And we'll be back in a couple of weeks. But also next week, I'm planning to do a little bit of an experiment. So keep an eye on what I post over the next couple of days. I'm creating something that I'm calling Dave's Answering Machine. And you've got the opportunity to basically go to a page and leave a message on my answering machine, and I will answer it. So I'm planning to do a show on that next week. So I will be announcing Dave's Answering Machine on LinkedIn. It'd be lovely if you could get involved. Tom, thank you so much again. And everyone else, look after yourself until I see you again.